Nation in Conversation, taking you on a journey through the South African countryside. Proudly sponsored by Monsanto, Nedbank and Senves, in association with AFGRI, Hinterland and NWK.
Hello and welcome to Nation in Conversation on our journey through the South African countryside. This week, our route took us to the Northwest Province, and it's clear why this is such a popular attraction with something to offer literally everyone. On our trip, we visited a vegetable producer to gain more insight into this industry. This is what you can look forward to in today's program. In Homegrown, we focus on the picturesque area around the Hartbeespoort Dam and explore some of the attractions in the surrounding area. Our trip then led us to a local producer who shed some light on this industry. In our In Context segment, Burgess joins us for his weekly opinion, and we make a turn at the impressive fresh produce market in Johannesburg. Economist Lindie Stroebel from PMA then joins Mpumelelo in dialogue to unpack the issues in this industry.
The Northwest Province is known as the heritage destination of South Africa. In the Bojanala region of this province lies the Hartbeespoort Dam, constructed in 1925. Its current capacity is 205 million cubic meters, and its shoreline, when full, stretches about 56 kilometers. Surrounded by the majestic Magaliesberg mountain range, this is a spectacular tourist destination that also offers a variety of water sports like yachting, windsurfing, water and jet skiing. Located close to both Johannesburg and Pretoria, this is a popular destination for weekend getaways and day trips for families. The aerial cableway is a must-do experience in the area. An exciting cable car trip on the longest mono cableway in Africa. Visitors can enjoy panoramic views of the Magaliesberg, Hartbeespoort Dam and surrounding areas. With as much to do at the base station as at the top, this is an outing not to be missed by any family. Apart from Hartbeespoort Dam, this region has a lot to offer. For the more adventurous at heart, there are many activities that will get the adrenaline levels soaring. For the outdoor fanatics, this area is popular for its hiking trails and birdwatching prospects. There is a local aquarium, a private zoo, a snake park, and the village of Hartbeespoort for a leisurely stroll. Get up close and personal with elephants at the Elephant Sanctuary at Hartbeespoort, one of 3 in the country. The area is very popular amongst visitors and tourists for the resourceful arts and craft markets, where almost anything local can be found. Lovers of craft beer and local cuisine can pop in at any of the many pubs and restaurants in the area. Whether it's adventure, good family times, or relaxation that you're after, the Hartbeespoort region offers enough to surprise you.
In this region, we stopped over at John Griffith's on his farm Volsput to share his passion with us. He was chosen as Agri Northwest Young Farmer of the Year in 2016, and with good reason. Let's have a look.
I've been farming here for the last 10 years in the Crocodile Valley. I have an irrigation farm, and I'm producing about 9 different crops, which consist of 2 vegetable crops, which is cabbage and spinach. And the others is maize, seed maize, popcorn, sugar beans, oats, that we produce for game feed. I deliver to Pretoria and Johannesburg fresh products market. I'm farming on about 500 hectares under irrigation, and I've got about 100 hectares that I'm using for game at the moment. I would say the basic guidelines to producing a quality product is good fertigation, step one. Definitely effective but yet responsible pest control. The right irrigation at the right time. And then definitely the harvesting, the handling and the transport of the product is very important. And it should be done with care. And it should also be done as soon as possible from harvesting to get the product as fresh as possible to the consumer. I would definitely say our biggest challenge is nature itself. Like we can see here today, I mean, it's wet, we are working in the mud. The one day we will have 40 degrees Celsius, which is not good for our plants. The next day we'll have 100 millimeters of rain, which is also not good for our plants. So that's our biggest challenge. And I mean, the only way for us to overcome that challenge is to adapt to the circumstances daily. Adapt to it and then manage it. That's our only way of dealing with it. I think the initiatives that we are undertaking for the community is definitely job creation. I think what we should remember is that in our community, we usually have workers which is unskilled and have no qualification whatsoever. So to take a person like that, to train him and to train him into a job that he can be proud of, that he can do, and by doing that, he can earn good money to sustain his family. I would say agriculture plays a very important role in our community. I would say that we are almost 100% dependent on agriculture. Around here, if you are not a farmer, you are working for a farmer. And if you're not working for a farmer, you're selling something to a farmer, or you're either delivering a service to a farmer. So we are almost 100% dependent. We are doing direct seeding. From direct seeding up to where we are harvesting here today, I would say it takes about 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the weather. The colder it gets, the longer it takes. It can go up to 8 weeks. And the warmer it gets, the quicker the plant grows, and we can harvest it by 6 to 7 weeks. The spinach gets harvested by hand, like we can see here today. It gets made into bunches. After getting loaded up here, it goes to the pack house, where it gets cleaned and it gets trimmed so that it looks neat. After that, it gets packed into boxes and it gets transported to Joburg and Pretoria.
Did you know? In the commercial value chain, vegetables mainly go to the 4 biggest fresh produce markets in Johannesburg, Tshwane, Cape Town and Durban.
Yet another success story, testimony to the incredible hard work put in by producers to deliver top quality products to consumers, but also to make a real difference every day. After the break, Chris Burgess joins us in studio and we take a walk through the fresh produce market in Johannesburg. Welcome back to Nation in Conversation. Remember that you too can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter. Today we take a deeper look into the vegetable industry, and with me is Chris Burgess, Editor-in-Chief of Landbouweekblad. Welcome, Chris.
Hi, Rosie.
Chris, consumers are far better informed about what they are eating than they were just 10 years ago. How has this changed the face of the vegetable industry?
Well, I mean, we've seen the rise of these specialized diets, like the Banting diet, and I mean, everyone thought it was going to have an impact on the potato industry. We're still selling just as many potatoes, maybe at a bit of a lower price, and I think that affects sort of your higher LSM market. And then you have the old advent of superfoods, which has seen berries specifically come to the fore: strawberries, blueberries, blackberries. But I think also from a producer side, you know, I mean, the big thing with the producers now is you must be able to supply all year round. So farmers have spread their production areas all over the country so they can supply all year round. And brand names have become quite important, you know. So your ZZ2s, your Wilde Klaver, people associate that with quality. So those are the main changes that have taken place.
Before we continue our discussion with Chris, we investigated the buzz of activities at the Joburg Fresh Produce Market. This insert should give you enough reason to get out of bed early to experience it for yourself.
To give you a bit of background, we have 20 commission markets in South Africa, right over across the country, from up in Limpopo, Polokwane and Mketsi, down to Cape Town in the Western Cape. On these markets, we do around between 14.5 and 15 billion rands of sales annually, with volumes of between 3 million and 4 million tons, or 3 to 4 billion kilograms of fresh produce annually. So the magnitude of that is quite big. What's important of our markets is that this serves as the price discovery mechanism in South Africa, where the price of fresh produce is discovered. The importance of that to the producer is that it gives him a barometer or an indication of what price his product would be sold for. Because price is discovered on the market, we have a range of product ranging from a class 1 right down to a class 4. And there's always, or most of the time, there is a buyer for that specific product. Because you have different LSMs in South Africa, and they come to the market, find a product that suits his price, find a product that suits his needs, and he buys that product. The advantage of that is that there's no barrier to entry within our markets. Any producer of any size with any type of quality can send his product to the market, and he will be able to sell it through the market. On Johannesburg market, we have an excess of 8,000 buyers visiting this market on a daily basis. The price that is discovered on that market and the price that the buyer pays on the market filters through right down to the end consumer, because there's a lot of competition in South Africa. There's not a few chain stores that dominates the whole fresh produce industry. We have independents, we have hawker trade, we have people selling fruit and veg on the street corner. And if they outprice themselves in terms of what they're asking for the product, the competition will sort that out. So there's a natural process of protecting, in a way, the consumer at the end of the day in terms of the price that he pays for his product. So my advice to an end consumer would be, in terms of fresh produce, if you want to buy fresh produce, shop around. Because you might get potatoes at 10 Rand a kilo, but you might also get potatoes at 8 Rand a kilo or 6 or 5 Rand a kilo, depending on your needs and depending on the quality that you would be satisfied with. So make sure that you change your habits of buying at one place and shop around and see if you could buy quality that doesn't look as bright or as colorful, but the inside quality is exactly the same, at probably 20, 30, 40% cheaper than what you would buy at your store where you normally shop.
Did you know, in the commercial value chain, vegetables mainly go to the 4 biggest fresh produce markets in Johannesburg, Tshwane, Cape Town and Durban.
What a great sight to see the hard work of our producers on display. Certainly enough reason to support them. Chris, how do we as consumers know that the products we are buying are fresh?
Well, on the retail level, I don't think there's any retailer that can afford not to sell fresh produce. So, I mean, the retail side is pretty much sorted out. But then the fresh produce markets are also a great regulator, because every farmer knows that if you supply fresh produce, supply top products, I mean, you're going to get top price. So there is sort of a self-regulating mechanism built into the market.
Whatever happened to the family greengrocer?
Yeah, it's quite sad, isn't it? I mean, the Portuguese farming community up on the Rand, for instance, I mean, they've got a long tradition of producing and controlling the whole supply chain, and you still got the Impala greengrocer on Northcliffe Corner, which is quite an interesting phenomenon. But I think that the new family greengrocer is actually your hawkers. Very interesting development. There are estimates that a third of all our fresh produce get distributed through informal channels, and up to 60% of certain vegetables get distributed by hawkers. And a lot of research is going into looking how producers can supply this market more sort of intelligently. So you get Westgrow, which is a group of potato producers in the Free State, for instance, have looked at specific packaging for smaller distributors of fresh produce.
Thank you, Chris. After the break, Mpumelelo is joined by economist Lindie Stroebel from PMA to further discuss South Africa's vegetable industry, with even more reasons why our producers need our support.
Welcome back to Nation in Conversation. With me today in studio is Lindie Stroebel, General Manager from the Produce Marketing Association, to help us understand how growth in this industry can be stimulated. Lindie, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining us. And before we get into the mechanics and the economics of this industry, it's all about consumer taste. And with the consumer now getting more sophisticated, how are the producers keeping apace?
See, that is pretty much the most important part of the industry, the vegetable industry, to understand the consumer. The consumer changes constantly, and the consumer, there's different areas of consumers or groupings of consumers in South Africa. You can group them largely in three groups. It's the poor consumer, who's very, very price sensitive, and make their decision on what the price is about. Then you've got the middle class, the larger group in the country, which is a perfect mix of being very price sensitive, especially now compared to a couple of years ago. Very price sensitive, yet willing to pay for convenience, for good quality. And then you've got the rich group. A smaller group, but value-wise very important because they spend a lot in the industry. Yeah. And they would pay a premium for convenience and high quality and location of where they buy it, etc. So the industry must understand the consumer, the questions they ask. The consumer wants safe food. They want it conveniently located where they can buy it. And all of that determines the price, and all of that determines the industry on how the industry responds to it.
So there's a lifestyle issue to the tastes in addition to the health issue.
Absolutely. The consumer, we are our own biggest enemy when it comes to price. Because if you look, for instance, packaging, in some cases, packaging, the product, the vegetables, as we buy it, we pay more for the packaging it's in than the actual products that's in it. And that's not the supermarket's fault, that's not the packaging company's fault, it's our fault because we demand it. So the price is influenced, for instance, by that. There's also a couple of other elements beyond just the consumer's preferences that would drive and determine price. And that's the efficiencies of our markets.
But to talk about packaging, I mean, can we safely say that all of the nice, packaging reflects the content?
It's not just the nice and beautiful and convenient packaging. It's the mere fact of having packaging. If you would compare if you would have your tomatoes on a big open table and you choose which ones you prefer to take and you put it into your container, nobody had to pack it. No plastic was used to package it for you before the time. No labor was there to make sure all of it was correctly done. So that is a cost cost element that was added to it. And if you would basically just choose from a variety of the quality that you want, you didn't need any of that. But yet, you and I we're lazy, we've got busy lifestyles, so our time is limited. We want to go in, take a bag and go out, and it needs to be the right color, it needs to promote what we want, etc. So that is a very important element.
So you would say that the consumer taste at the moment, and as well as health benefits that come with this kind of produce, is actually drive, the prices, whether they go up or down. It's not some kind of, people don't thumbsuck the prices.
No, absolutely. There's very clear price mechanisms that develop the price, but we are also influenced by perceptions. We're under the wrong perception that hawkers, for instance, do not have high quality products. If you take the products that's being sold at the fresh produce markets, those products, some of them would go to the supermarkets and some of them would end up on the street with the hawkers. The origin of that product is the same farm. And it was through the same process. At the end, the maintenance of the shelf life does influence. But you can buy similar, very high quality products on the street as what you get on the supermarkets. This is generally speaking now. But it is a perception.
Is the perception wrong that, a hawker wouldn't sell a good quality product compared to, say, a big supermarket in Sentin or in one of the sophisticated malls in South Africa? So that's not correct.
The point of where they buy the product, it's the same quality.
Yeah.
But after that, of course, it depends on how they handled the product.
Well, that's the point I wanted to come to. How does your group of suppliers, how do you keep it as healthy as possible, as fresh as it was when it was harvested?
See, there's many standards that you have to maintain. There's also newly introduced inspection services at various points, at supermarkets as well as the fresh produce markets. So that determine that we all get the same quality. But if you, at the end of the day, you can't determine if the supermarket's fridge was maintained at the right temperature, or the handling of the products by a hawker was handled by clean hands. That is the point where the differentiation of quality do come in. But in general, the quality is very similar.
But besides that, there's also the issue of the farming techniques that are involved. How do farmers ensure that, notwithstanding the kind of capacity that hawkers and other middlemen people use, to market and sell the product, notwithstanding all of that, that the farmers produce in such a way that the produce can withstand whatever difficulties on the way to the market and they're still kept in good quality? Is there something that the farmers can do?
There's a lot they can do. It goes from the whole handling of the product, from the inputs they use, from the cultivars they use, from the genetics, right from there. The farmer can choose which product line they can go into, and that would determine also what quality, what type of product, because a tomato is not a tomato. You've got tomatoes prepared for the canning industry, tomatoes that you and I use for our salads. There's the smaller tomatoes, the yellow tomatoes. You've got all that varieties and differences, and then you've got different genetics in that ranges as well. The farmer selection of that is important. Their use of fertilizers, their use of chemicals and pesticides, all of that is also determined on what they can ask at the end of the day for the product.
But that would mean there's a lot of pressure now on the small producer to compete with a highly sophisticated company like ZZ2, Tommy Van Zyl and his team there, who actually are highly mechanized. So how do all these producers cope in that kind of environment where they have to up their stakes basically?
Absolutely. The small farmer do have stand back on the bigger producers for the main reason they don't have the advantage of economies of scale. Economies of scale, with that means you can bring in more technology, you can spend more on your information and understanding. But there's absolutely no reason for a small farmer with a much more simpler product, not a very technical or a difficult product to produce, to enter the market. And the fresh produce market supermarkets across the country provides for a market outlet for them as well.
Yeah.
Some of them successfully enter into contracts with supermarkets, but that is a assured avenue for them to enter the market and access it, because and that's the beauty of our fresh produce markets. If you would go to those platforms, you'd see the likes of an example that you use of ZZ2 delivering their products, as well as a small farmer delivering it in a bakkie. And same on the other end, on the buyer's end, where you will have your big ShopRite or Food Lovers Market trucks driving out there, as well as a bakkie trader going out and delivering either to the hawkers or selling himself somewhere. So there's no reason for them not to access the market. The platform is there. It's just to maintain your supply, the quality of your supply, and of course to be able to understand the market so that you can understand the price formation therefore.
I would also imagine they would take advantage, I'm referring to the small producers, they will take advantage of the supplier or the enterprise development initiatives that the big retail companies enter into to procure more goods from the emerging farmers. I mean, I'm sure your organization would encourage that.
No, absolutely. If you look at the inclusion of small enterprises, and small enterprise doesn't necessarily have to be small farmers. It could be small wholesalers like your bakkie traders, or it could be hawkers themselves. And they get involved in initiatives. And it's not just the retailers that reach out in procurement programs, in enterprise development programs. It's also the producers themselves. Very big successful partnership agreements, joint ventures or mentorships, various forms of it, where they get involved with small farmers. The good example is what happened in Muketsi market, in Muketsi in the Limpopo, where through participation of big producers and small producers, collectively they revitalized that local fresh produce market, and they could ensure their own sustainability of their market there.
Yeah, great insights there, and let's hope that emerging producers can take advantage of what's happening in our country. This industry is really growing. Thank you, Lindie, for joining us and for sharing the information with us.
Thank you.
That was it for today. Thank you very much for joining us here at Nation in Conversation. Until next time.
Thank you, Mpumelelo. Next week, we explore the game industry in South Africa, exotic game, as well as a special focus on rhinos, certainly not to be missed. We also explore the rapidly growing photography industry and find out why South Africa is the ideal destination to capture special moments. Remember to exercise your right as a consumer. Join the conversation. It affects us all. Until next week, goodbye.
Nation in Conversation, taking you on a journey through the South African countryside. Proudly sponsored by Monsanto, Nedbank and Senves, in association with AFGRI, Hinterland and NWK.